morning is Luc Blanchet, talking about post-Newtonian theory and gravitational wave.
Good morning. So we shall discuss in this talk gravitational waves and theoretical aspects of gravitational waves, and in particular, the way the post-Newtonian approximation of general relativity is useful and actually very important in building templates, that is, theoretical predictions for gravitational waves. And obviously, we are completely motivated by the wonderful recent discoveries of gravitational waves. Oh, excuse me. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Sorry for that. So we are completely motivated by the discoveries by the laser interferometric gravitational wave detector network of the gravitational wave generated by the in-spiral and merger of compact binary system, either black holes or neutron stars. We all know the signal that has been discovered, so let me have just a few remarks on these. The signals are very clean signals that can be compared directly with our theoretical prediction. And in that case, the theoretical prediction is from general relativity theory, which, as far as we understand it, is a fundamental theory, valid in principle at any scale below the Planck scale. In the case of the black hole discovered, their masses are very large, and therefore the detectors are sensitive essentially to the late stage of the evolution of these compact binary systems, essentially the merger and the ring down, and a few orbital cycles before the merger. In the case of neutron star binary systems, the masses are much smaller, and the detectors are essentially sensitive to the in-spiral phase of the coalescence before the merger, and thousands of orbital cycles are observed, are measured. Unfortunately, the detectors are not yet sensitive enough to measure, to detect, to observe the merger phase of the two neutron stars, which occurs at much higher frequency. It's, of course, a pity because we expect a lot of very interesting physics occurring in the merger waveform and post-merger waveform of binary neutron star events. So what are the methods that are used to build gravitational wave templates for the in-spiral and merger and ring down of compact binary systems? It is common to describe the different methods in a particular plane where we plot on the x-axis of this diagram the usual slow motion parameter, which is essentially the square of the orbital velocity of the system, and by the virial theorem for bond systems, typically, for instance, for circular orbits, this small slow motion parameter is of the order of the compacity parameter of the system, that is the ratio between the total mass of the system and the size of the system, which is in that case the radius of the orbit, the distance between the two black holes. On the other hand, on the y-axis, we plot the mass ratio between the two black holes, m1 divided by m2, but actually it is more useful to use the symmetric mass ratio between the two particles, or the two black holes, and which equals 1/4 for two equal masses, or comparable masses, and which tends to 0 in the test mass limit. Now, when the slow motion parameter v square is small, then the two black holes are rather far apart, velocities are small, the gravitational field is weak. We can assume that the strong self-field gravity of the compact object is somehow renormalized into the masses of the two compact objects, and therefore we can use post-Newtonian theory to have a very good description in that regime of the dynamics and emitted radiation for the system. On the other hand, if we assume that the symmetric mass ratio of the particle is very small. Independently of the strength of the gravitational field, we can use perturbation theory, black hole perturbation theory, by assuming that the motion and radiation from your system differs only by a small perturbation from the motion generated by particles moving on the geodesic of the central object, massive object. And for comparable masses in the strong field regime, we have numerical relativity, a full integration of the Einstein field equation for two black holes. On the top of this somehow fundamental method, we have also effective methods that interpolate between these various more fundamental methods, post-Newtonian, perturbation theory, and numerical relativity. And there are two types of effective methods, the effective one-body approach and the IMR method, in-spiral merger ring-down approach method that have been used. So just the picture of a theorist. The gravitational wave template will be made of a first initial in-spiraling phase accurately described by post-Newtonian theory up to order 3.5 post-Newtonian beyond the Einstein quadrupole formula that is in principle matched to numerical waveforms generated by numerical relativity for the merger and also for the ring down of the compact binary. This is theory view. In practice for black hole binaries where the masses are rather high, the effective method play a key role in the data analysis of these systems. And for instance, the hybrid in-spiral merger ring-down waveform is constructed by matching the post-Newtonian analytical result to the numerical result for the merger through an intermediate phase, which is described phenomenologically. And on the other hand, the effective one-body approach starts from the real two-body dynamics described by post-Newtonian theory and resumed the post-Newtonian prediction into some effective one-body approach which extends the validity of the post-Newtonian approximation beyond the in-spiral phase. And Alessandro Nagar will review the effective one-body approach in the parallel session BN6 this afternoon. And finally, in the case of neutron star binaries, the event of last August in 2017, the templates are essentially based on the post-Newtonian waveform, 3.5 PN waveform, since the detectors are sensitive to the in-spiral phase of the coalescence process. So the post-Newtonian approximations, there are two problems to solve. The first problem is the one of the equations of motion, that is the dynamics of the binary system, and the second problem is the one of the radiation. The 1PN equations of motion, one order V over C square beyond the Newtonian approximation, has been worked out since the early days of general relativity by Lorentz and Drost, and then rediscovered in the famous paper by Einstein, Infeld, Hoffman in the 30s. And obviously, at the time, the motivation was to have a very accurate description of n planets in the solar system. And nowadays, these equations, 1PN equations of motion, are used to have very accurate planetary ephemerides for the motion, the dynamics of planets in the solar system. On the other hand, the radiation field will start, is solved at the lowest order Newtonian approximation by the quadrupole moment formalism of Einstein. There are several formulas in this formalism. There is a formula for the energy flux generated by the system in the form of gravitational waves. There is similar formulas for the flux of linear momentum, angular momentum, and so on. There is a formula for the amplitude of the wave, and there is also a formula for the radiation reaction force acting in the system, which is a dissipative force, which tells that the system is emitting gravitational waves. Now, to compute more accurately the gravitational field generated by these systems, the problem is not turned out to be not trivial at all. And the first attempt to obtain more accurate prediction from GR to the radiation field generated by an isolated matter source, for a binary system or any type of other source, was the Bondi-Sachs-Penrose formalism developed in the 60s, which investigates, using rigorous investigation of the Einstein field equations, the structure of radiative space-time generated by isolated matter sources, but far away from the system. Using the Penrose compactified infinities, notably future null infinity far from the source, this formalism is able to describe very accurately the waveform generated by an isolated system very far from the system. But this formalism cannot be used directly to build gravitational wave templates, since actually there is no matter source in this formalism and no way to connect the asymptotic structure to the parameters of the source, to the dynamics of the source. And the formalism that has been implemented successfully in order to get the gravitational wave templates at high precision beyond the quadrupole formula is the combination actually of approximation method, and is based on a multipolar expansion of the field outside an isolated system. So we are already in a better position than the previous formalism because we are outside, but we can be rather close to the system in the exterior region of the system. And this multipolar expansion is implemented in practice by expanding the field equations in nonlinearities using a post-Minkowskian approximation. So this formalism is sometimes called the Blanchet-Damour-Heyer formalism. It started in the early 80s, and actually with Thibaut Damour, who was my PhD advisor at the time. And since then, this formalism has been extensively developed. So it consists in computing the multiple expansion of the field using a post-Minkowskian iteration starting from the known multiple expansion of the field in linearized gravity. There is a paper, an important paper by Thorne in the 80s about that. And we have an explicit way to compute the nonlinearities associated with that up to, in principle, to any order. And the result is an expression for the gravitational field which depends on multiple moments that are unspecified at that stage. However, from that, we can prove several theorems. This procedure generates the most general solution of the Einstein field equation in vacuum outside some isolated matter source. And last but not least, it recovers, when re-expanded near Scri plus, it recovers the Bondi-Sachs-Penrose formalism. So we are happy. Now, this external field, of course, this is not sufficient. We have to match it somehow to the inner field of the matter system, and this inner field will be described by the post-Newtonian approximation. And in order to do this matching, we use a variant of the theory of matched asymptotic expansions. There is a matching equation which permits to connect the external multipolar field outside the system to the post-Newtonian field in some region, intermediate region, overlapping region, where both approximations are valid. And there has been a lot of work on this matching, and the result has been obtained at any order in the approximation, and this gives you a unique, in a particular coordinate system that we use, the harmonic coordinate system, a unique solution for the field, both outside the system, in particular at Scri plus, and in the intermediate zone, and inside the matter source. Implementing this formalism, we end up with some formulas for the wave field at Scri plus, where the detector is located. And in particular, we know that for the templates, the crucial output to be input for the for building templates is the phase evolution of the compact binary system, and this phase evolution is given by the total flux in gravitational waves that has to be therefore computed beyond the Einstein quadrupole formula at high order, and the state of the art now is 3.5 pn order beyond the quadrupole formula, and the formula is entirely given in terms of the mass ratio of the particles, the symmetric mass ratio of the two particles, and in terms of the small post-Newtonian parameter that is directly related to the orbital frequency of the system. And this afternoon, Tanguy Marchand, in the parallel session BN6, will show how high-order nonlinear tails effects actually are responsible for the coefficient at order 4.5 pn beyond this formula, while still the coefficient at order 4 pn is unknown and is the topic of ongoing work. Now, coming back to the problem of the equations of motion, the state of the art for equations of motion is now 4 pn. We write the equations of motion into Newtonian-like form as relativistic correction to the Newtonian acceleration, and you recognize here the 1 pn Lorentz-Drost-Einstein-Infeld-Hoffmann term. And then there are many corrections to these, up to 4 pn order, that has been recently completely solved by two groups. One group, Jaranowski and Schaeffer, and Damour, Jaranowski and Schaeffer, working with the ADM Hamiltonian formalism of general relativity, and our group working with the Lagrangian approach, what we call the Fokker-Lagrangian approach in harmonic coordinates. There is also a third approach, very important approach, which is based on effective field theory techniques, and the EFT people have obtained already some partial results at 4 pn order. So our team working on the 4 pn equations of motion that was based on collaboration with Laura Bernard, Alejandro Boé, Guillaume Fay, Tanguy Marchand, and Sylvain Marsat. And Guillaume Fay this afternoon will give you more details on this calculation of the 4 pn equations of motion in the parallel session BN6. But I'd like to emphasize a few features of these calculations. This calculation is based on a Lagrangian, the Fokker-Lagrangian. The Fokker-Lagrangian is computed starting from the Einstein-Hilbert action, but with the usual harmonic coordinate gauge fixing term. And the Fokker-Lagrangian is obtained when we insert an explicit solution of the Einstein field equations for particles developed using our usual post-Newtonian approximation scheme, and when we insert back the solution of these equations of motion back into the action. So the action is an action only for the particles, and this is the action for our matter system, and varying the action, we obtain the post-Newtonian equations of motion. At the 4 pn order, there is a new feature that arrives. It is the so-called gravitational wave tail effect. This tail effect is known since many years, and we know that in the far field, it gives you a correction to the Einstein quadrupole formula at order 1.5 pn 1/c3 beyond the quadrupole formula. This is this effect, which, by the way, has been already checked by LIGO-Virgo experiments, which measure indeed coefficient, which is 4 pi in the flux, which is due to this tail effect. But in the equations of motion, or in the inner field, post-Newtonian field, this effect is at 4 pn order. That is 1.5 pn order beyond the dominant radiation reaction term, which is itself at 2.5 pn order in the radiation, in the equations of motion. And so in the inner field, this gives you a contribution to the Fokker action of our internal dynamics at 4 pn order, which is actually a non-local contribution. There is a double integration here over time, and this gives you specific features that have to be managed, notably with a non-local action and so on, at the 4PN order. On the other hand, our colleagues from the effective field theory approach also compute the tail effect and using Feynman diagrams at the tree-level approximation, that is neglecting the quantum graviton loops in the process, and they can compute both the tail effect in the near zone and also in the far zone. Now, in this problem, because of this appearance of the tail effect at the 4PN order, there are associated with that some new divergences that appear. There are the usual divergences that are UV divergences associated with the particles that are cured using dimensional regularization. But at 4PN order, there are also infrared divergences due to the fact that actually the post-Newtonian approximation is divergent at infinity, and you have integrals extending up to infinity, and you have to cure these integrals by means of a regularization. And for a while, and there was a lot of trouble and struggle with that fact, actually the infrared regularization to be used causes in general problems and is responsible for the appearance of what we called for a while ambiguity parameters. That is a few parameters that are undetermined by the regularization. And our colleagues from the Hamiltonian formalism do have also one ambiguity parameters, and these parameters are actually known by comparing with result of gravitational self-force calculations, both for the energy, conserved energy, and also periastron advance, which permit to fit and to adjust to obtain the final value of these ambiguity parameters. However, this is obviously not very satisfying. We would like to have a full consistent computation of the equations of motion within the PN approximation scheme without resorting to another computation, self-force calculation. And let me just show you, and again, Guillaume Fay will give you more details on that this afternoon, the way we have computed the final ambiguity parameters and obtained the full equations of motion from first principle. And the way is to use dimensional regularization for the infrared divergences as well. So we correct our initial calculation, which had ambiguities, by a contribution which is due to this dimensional regularization. And we found that there are poles in the dimension that appear because of that, infrared poles, okay, that have to be taken into account consistently. And on the other hand, there are also the tails that have to be computed also in d dimensions, and we find that the tails contain another pole, a UV-type pole this time, which exactly cancels the pole, the infrared pole there, so that the result is finite at the end. But the important thing is that the tail effect is computed in this formalism from the matching equation between the post-Newtonian field and the external field. And this matching requirement is extremely precise and gives you a unique answer for the next order term beyond the pole, the finite part that we have here. And this finite part, finally, resolves the problem of ambiguities. And its value yields ambiguity parameters that are completely consistent with the one that were guessed before by comparing with self-force calculation. So this is the completion of the 4PN equations of motion. So I'd like to finish this presentation by showing you two interfaces between the post-Newtonian approximation and other types of approximations. The first one is the comparison between post-Newtonian and perturbation theory. I start again with this diagram, and we see that there is an important overlap between the two approximation methods, where they are able, both are able to describe the motion of two black holes that are rather far apart, so that the velocities are rather small, and we can use the post-Newtonian, and with a rather extreme mass ratio between the two particles. So we have made computation of so there is the technique of gravitational self-force, which is well known. It describes the corrections of a particle around a big black hole, the departure from the geodesic of the big black hole due to the presence of the particle itself. There has been a lot of, there is a whole community working on numerical method and analytical method to compute very precisely the gravitational self-force using technique that is based on perturbation, black hole perturbation theory. And on the other hand, we can compute the post-Newtonian approximation also and compare to it. And the way to do it is to use, so we are using we are comparing the conservative dynamics of the system, namely exactly circular orbits. This is very important because for circular orbits, there is a Killing symmetry in your space-time, and there is an invariant associated with the Killing helical, what is called helical Killing vector, associated with that symmetry. This is the redshift parameter, which is just simply the coefficient, proportionality coefficient between the Killing vector and the force velocity of the particle. It has been introduced by Detweiler in the field. And the point is that we are able, since this parameter is also a redshift, it can be computed to high accuracy with post-Newtonian calculations and using our full technique of post-Newtonian calculation involving in particular the problem of regularization, since we have to compute the metric at the location of the particle. So we will use our favorite dimensional regularization calculation. And on the other hand, there is also the problem of the tails and so on. And so this is important to check. And here is a result computed using self-force techniques that is valid up to very high post-Newtonian order, since this technique is able to describe the strong field regime of the compact binary, but of course only at the lowest order in the mass ratio. And on the other hand, the post-Newtonian approximation is able to compute at any mass ratio, but is limited to the weak field slow motion approximation. But nevertheless, it can be developed up to high order, for instance, 3pn order, and checked and agrees completely with predictions from gravitational self-force calculations. So in blue, these are terms which actually heavily rely, notably the 3pn term, on our technique on dimensional regularization, and other terms that have been computed here rely actually on the machinery of tails, nonlinear tails, and so on, that agree completely with self-force calculations. And finally, I'd like to show also another interface between post-Newtonian and another method, which is a direct post-Minkowskian approximation. So again, I take my diagram, but I modify it. I will here still my slow motion parameter, v square, okay? But this time, I will not consider necessarily bond systems. They can be bond or unbound systems, so I don't have the relation between the square of the velocity and the compactness of my system. That is, v square is not necessarily of the order g. For bond system, I will have the bond system will be on this line, but I have now an independent parameter, which is the compactness. And obviously, when the compactness is very small, I will have my post-Minkowskian expansion working well. And on the other hand, when my slow motion parameter will be small, I will have my post-Newtonian approximation working well. And so, is there an interface that can be worked out with these two approximations? Yes. So let me remind you that the post-Minkowskian approximation has been developed also from many decades in GR. This is in this expansion we consider the nonlinear perturbation expansion of the metric with respect to the Minkowski background. In harmonic coordinates, the wave equation, the field equations will take the form of some wave equations that can, in principle, be iterated up to infinity. At each order, the source for the wave equation will be known from previous iterations. for the post-Minkowskian approximation, the main application of the post-Minkowskian approximation is for the scattering, the problem of ultra-relativistic scattering of two particles with a small deviation angle. That's the physical application of this formalism, and it has been developed up to the second post-Minkowskian order. And let me mention also that there has been an Hamiltonian for n particles at the first post-Minkowskian approximation that has been found in closed form in ADM coordinates, which is rather interesting. And recently, there has been a lot of papers on the post-Minkowskian approximation and its relation to the post-Newtonian theory. And I refer to the talk by Donato Bini tomorrow in the parallel session, BN9, for more details about that. Let me just finish by showing you what we have done in this field recently. This is by comparing the 4pn recent result for the equations of motion with the 1pm approximation. The 1pm approximation is very well known, of course, but in order to compare with post-Newtonian expansion, we have to do something more, I would say. The result, which is given by the standard Liénard-Vickert solution for n particles, actually has to be transformed for comparison with post-Newtonian calculations by explicitly performing the retardations up to consistent order. In a small post-Minkowskian term of order G, the trajectories, the velocities are constant, the trajectories are straight line, and therefore we can expand it retardation consistently. And this gives you expressions for the equations of motion of n particles and for the conserved energy associated with these equations of motion in closed form at 1pm order, expressed in terms of variables that can be compared directly with post-Newtonian approximation. And in particular, in the energy, there is a term that has a more complicated structure, but nevertheless, which admits a closed form expression. But concerning the Lagrangian, that was actually more difficult. The Lagrangian in harmonic coordinates is a generalized Lagrangian. This is a well-known fact in harmonic coordinates. So there are dependence on the accelerations of the Lagrangian. And we have to deal with that in order to find the Lagrangian for comparison with the 4pn Fokker Lagrangian that we had before. And we do that by computing the ordinary part of the Lagrangian, which depend on position and velocities, by some interesting looking formula which solves the Legendre transformation between the energy and the Lagrangian, where the energy, the G terms in the energy are given here. And by this means, we could check completely the 4pn equations of motion, the 4pn Lagrangian, including the acceleration-dependent terms, and we even computed the 5pn Lagrangian at order G. And on the other hand, with that formalism, we wanted also to check the Hamiltonian formalism in ADM coordinates, but unfortunately, we were able only to check agreement with them up to a canonical transformation only in a special case of equal masses. And apparently, in our case, in harmonic coordinates, we didn't find a closed form expression for the Lagrangian, closed form at 1pm order. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very rich presentation. And if there are quick comments or questions. I understand that there will be parallel sessions in the afternoon, so there will be
this afternoon,
more discussion.
The parallel session BN6.
Right, so there will be more discussion. Okay, so let's thank all the speakers of this session. The session is closed.